Welcome to the Elk Season Podcast, the first ever Elk Season Podcast. I am Harold Chambers with my brother, David Chambers.
Welcome.
It is January 2nd, right?
Yes,
if
January
I'm right.
2nd.
2022.
Big things in store, right?
And yes, and here's what we're going to talk about today. First of all, I want to go over the mission statement of Elk Season. I started Elk Season just over a year ago on TikTok, just under a year ago, actually, in February. And so I got a bunch of TikTok videos, and it's just silly. The mission statement of Elk Season is to entertain archery elk hunters, to give insight, to encourage, and to help bring positive thoughts to archery elk hunters throughout the year. Archery elk hunting can be very discouraging.
And you really have to be thinking about it all year. So in our selfish attempt, this podcast is to help us improve that process.
Very much so. I think it's a strong enough emotion in me that I hope other guys identify with it, other people identify with it, and go, yes, I need to be thinking about elk season a lot more than I am.
Yes. And honestly, would this be the New Year's resolution I have, is just to do that finally, 2022? I think about it all the time, but do I really think about it? And that's what I'm excited for this podcast.
Right. And when I started last year making TikToks, and I started watching elk content. I go, I'm just going to get on YouTube and just watch some new elk content every day. And that's part of our assignment every week, to come in and have some new elk season, have some new elk content.
Something.
Whatever it is, there's lots of it out there. And I learned so much over the year just by doing that, just by accumulating knowledge about elk season through watching one video a day, one 15, 20-minute video.
Data points are so important.
Yeah.
And it's not just any old data point, it's cumulative data points that you can stack up on your own history to help you become more informed as a hunter. In any hunting, but bow hunting particularly, requires an attention to detail, an accumulation of knowledge, and an exercise of discipline, which you're going to learn a little bit about that between us and where we are with that.
Right. So let me tell you what we're going to tell you, and then we're going to tell you.
Yeah.
And then we'll tell you what we told you. That's the formula, right? So what we're going to do is I'm going to give you an introduction to elk season, what elk season is supposed to be about. We're going to talk about the 2021 archery elk season that we experienced, both together and alone. You brought in a picture book.
I did, a picture book.
And this episode will be available on YouTube, by the way. So if you want to see, we'll have some pictures and some videos from elk season this year. And also, I want to talk about the Elk 101 trailer, the 2021 trailer. So Elk 101, I think is what it's called. It's Corey Jacobson, he's a champion elk caller, whatever that means, and he's a really good elk hunter. And all of the stuff that I watched him in last year, my favorite scene, because these guys, their personalities aren't that strong. They're just hunters. and their personality doesn't come out. I know. Their personality doesn't come out. And I'm like, come on, give me something. And finally, Corey Jacobson, it's like episode 7 or episode 8, where they're like, well, we don't know if we want to hunt this with a rifle or with a bow. And you could just see how viscerally disgusted he was with the idea of harvesting something with a rifle. It was beautiful. So I loved Corey Jacobson from that moment.
I know you've talked to me about Corey before.
Yeah.
And I probably will have recognized him when I get more into the content, we get more into the conversation. So I apologize, Corey, if you ever see this. I just haven't committed it to memory. I've probably met you before.
They're all over the place. They have a lot of elk content. When I talk about their 2021 trailer, they have new episodes that are going to be dropping on the 24th of this month. So in just a few weeks. And it's really good content. It's really good content. And then we're going to talk about my genesis. So these are the questions that we want to have guests on the Elk Season Podcast. There is a brotherhood of archery elk hunters that we'll never get to spend time with.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not going to go hunt with you. I hunt with you.
Yeah.
And the more people you have hunting, the less likely you are to get anything.
Yeah, you've got to be very strategic.
And so you can't make friends with all these elk hunters and bring them all with you as much as I want to.
And as many hunters as I've run into,
I like them all.
I like them all.
I like them all.
But we're also not going out every year together.
Right.
We meet in the field and we kind of just part ways, but we're always friendly. And there's some great stories that come with that as well.
But we're part, right, and we're part of this community. I know.
Yeah.
We're part of this community, and I want to meet and hear stories from and talk to more and more archery elk hunters. Yeah. So, if you're an archery elk hunter, you like this podcast, if you live near Twin Falls, Idaho, this is where it's recorded for now. Until we're mobile. But we want to talk to you. We have extra microphones. Please come in. We will find a way to get you in the studio, and we can adjust the time. So email me, RockyMountainElkSeason@gmail.com. That's RockyMountainElkSeason@gmail.com if you'd like to be a guest on the Elk Season podcast. The format that we're kind of shooting for right now, and it's episode 1, so we'll probably make some big changes.
Yeah. You got to have a starting point.
But it's to talk about how we found archery and archery elk. So it's my genesis, what I call my genesis. Is that the right word? I don't even know.
Your beginning.
My genesis story into elk season.
In the beginning.
And my biggest 3 moments. The first time I ever heard an elk bugle in the wild. And my favorite pieces of gear. Some pieces of gear that I like, and that's it. That's all I have so far. If you have any better questions to ask, please ask them at same email address, RockyMountainElkSeason@gmail.com. All right, so let's get started. This is the official show intro that I hammered out this morning while sipping coffee in the dark.
Delicious.
But I've I know, plain black coffee because it's after January 1st. And I'm
discipline. We brought that up already.
I'm in a cutting phase. Archery elk is the greatest outdoor sport in North America with only a 10% success rate. It can be discouraging, and our stated goal is to encourage you with every podcast to begin or continue your participation in archery elk. No other outdoor sport combines rough, wild terrain amongst bears and mountain lions, and in some place, wolves and grizzlies. And still, the greatest threat to an archery elk hunter is dehydration and hypothermia. High in the mountains out west, the weather can swing 100 degrees in 24 hours, and you have to be ready for every bit of it. And you suffer through all of that, knowing that your prey sees all of that and more and is equipped for it. And somehow you have to get within 50 yards or so you can flip a stick at it. That's elk season.
Yeah.
But if you've done it, if you've ever gotten close to an 800-pound monster screaming and stomping towards you, that moment, it's that moment.
It's a big moment.
It's that moment that we chase. It's a wild, wild moment. Whatever comes from that moment, harvest or not, that moment is such a close connection to our wild past, and being close to it is really something special. So we're here to talk about that journey, what happened to us that got us to that point.
And
pardon. What happened, and what are our most meaningful moments that we've had during elk season. So that is what this is.
And to piggyback off of all of that, to highlight my definition of success. I know this wasn't on the script, but I'm going to say this because it's relevant to this tangent, if you will, that you just went through.
Yeah.
Success really isn't about harvest.
Never has
Hunting
been.
is about the pursuit of animals. And harvesting is maybe the benefit of the process. That's what you're going for. But getting close to the animals is success to me. Despite how many animals I may or may not have harvested, you'll learn later about that. But success
may or may not have
is getting close. Because why else would I keep going back if I have limited success 10% of the time? What keeps bringing me back? Well, I keep getting close. And they're amazing creatures. It's great to be out in wilderness, all of that stuff.
Yeah. I think about it a lot, and I think you've played golf.
Once or twice.
And you have that swing, and you connect with the ball, and it feels perfect, and the ball goes perfectly, and you want to recreate that. Mm-hmm. When you have that moment with a bull elk or with any elk, some close encounter, like you're like that is wild. I want to recreate that, and you will drive yourself into bankruptcy.
Yeah, pretty much.
Trying trying to recreate that moment. It's very similar. Every time you shoot a basketball, right, and you feel it. It's nothing but net, and it just swooshes through. You're like, I can do it again. And you keep trying, and you keep trying, and you keep trying. The problem with archery elk is that we only have 1 month out of the year. We only have September.
Here in Idaho, yeah.
And most places out west are much shorter. I think Montana is 6 weeks, but most places are much shorter. Some places are only a week. And out of that week, how many hours do you actually get to be in close pursuit of an elk?
Yeah, and on top of that, how many of these other places have private versus public land? So some places have a lot more private land than public land.
Oh, we're lucky.
And so Idaho is very
we're
lucky.
lucky.
That way.
We're lucky here. We've lived in the Intermountain Northwest our whole lives.
Yeah.
There is wide open spaces, man. There is lots of places to go.
And that has benefited my mentality out in the field, because when I come across other hunters, I used to be really upset, and maybe some of you feel this way. It's just like,
oh yes,
there's other hunters out here, but this is where I was at. I was here first. And just this weird, silly competitiveness in your brain. But I learned that, well, there's a lot of it's so vast. Just get out there and hike in the opposite direction. You'll find out. It's just a matter of
they're out there. They're out there.
Don't worry about it.
All right, let's get started. Let's talk about the 2021 season. If you want to. It was hot. It was hot. It started.
It was dry.
It started with a very cold hike up Mount Bora.
Oh, that's right. to get into shape.
To prove to ourselves.
I don't know if it was to get into shape, because I didn't get into shape on Mount Bora. But what I will say is that my legs and my feet were taught that there are much harder hikes than the places I go elk hunting.
Yes. So I did hike with a lot of confidence this fall because we hiked Mount Bora. Now, Mount Bora, in case you don't know, it's the highest peak in Idaho. It's 12,662 feet, and it is basically a 5-mile staircase.
Yeah.
25% incline all the way up. It is just stepping. There's not really a lot of scrambling with your hands.
A couple places here and there. Most of it's pretty simple.
But it's all footwork, leg work.
Yeah.
And it is intimidating. It is intimidating. Even climbing down, looking back, you're like, oh, that's intimidating.
Yeah.
So, and then I underdressed.
Yeah.
Bad. It was so cold. It was snowed almost the whole time.
It was wearing shorts. I was a little bit concerned for you when you brought up your hypothermia concerns right before Chicken Out Ridge, which is a special place. I remember you saying something about feeling cold, and then after that we got a little farther up, and you're like, I don't know what's going on. I go, I think it's hypothermia.
It probably was. And I've already stated, dehydration and hypothermia are the greatest dangers. Despite all the wild animals and all the crazy terrain, it is the weather that can get you if you're not careful. And as much as I preach that, I should practice it better.
I just realized I'm wearing the pants that I climbed up Mount Bora.
Oh yeah,
and I was feeling my butt. So if you're watching the camera, there's a hole in my pocket. I was seeing if this was the pair of pants with the hole, because I sat down on the sharp rock and put a hole in these brand new pants. Anyway, but yes, getting yourself ready, a good hiking throughout the year is helpful. Mount Bora didn't hurt us though. It just gave us more strength in the field.
Yeah, it gave me strength of mind. Yeah, it gave me a lot of confidence. But then, because it was a hot summer. It seemed like every day since June you wake up, it's 90 degrees.
Yep.
As soon as you wake up, and we go all summer long. And I'm like, even if it's cold on Mount Bora, I'm wearing shorts, and I got shorts and a hoodie and like no gloves. And I was underdressed, and it was really cold, and I didn't look at the weather forecast, and I should have. And then only a week later, was it 1 week or 2?
I think it was 2 weeks.
Only 2 weeks later, I overdressed. I overcompensated.
Yeah,
and
that's right.
almost. I was suffering from dehydration.
Yeah,
I was too hot.
That.
Yes, and it was because one affects the other.
Yeah,
just go down this stupid road.
Yeah,
and I'm just so overdressed because I'm wearing all these extra thermals, and I'm like, but it's still 80 degrees out, and I'm wearing these layers.
That's right. Yeah, because we got back to we got back to base camp.
Yeah,
and you were just exhausted.
It was bad. It was bad.
I almost forgot about that.
When we got down to the bottom of like the Candy Cane Trail,
and
like, okay, I think we can make it back to camp now. I was I was just so hot. I was just so done with it.
Yeah, we had hiked in areas we hadn't hiked in that area ever.
Yeah.
And it was just long and hot. In places where we should have found water, we had to go much lower to get to the water. And I had been out of water for a lot of the day.
Yeah.
It just was so dry up there. In places where we're usually trekking through mud and dirt, dry as a bone.
And when it did snow, we got snowed out. Was that Monday morning? I think it was a Sunday morning, right?
Yeah, seems like it.
A Sunday morning. I have trail cam footage from Sunday morning that you haven't seen.
Apparently.
And there were big bulls up there that day.
Oh my goodness.
In the snow. It only snowed one day all September.
So
all season
was
long.
That the lounge? Is
That
that what you're
day.
talking about?
Yeah.
The lounge.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, between Elk Ridge and the Butt Crack.
So if you're
Right?
wondering, so we're listing off geographical names for the places that we travel to and the places we hunt. So we have nicknames. It's our own language that we communicate with. So when you hear the Butt Crack, the Candy Cane, the Lounge, Elk Ridge, these are just things that we've come up with as we've traversed a particular spot that we like to hunt that we've named it. So if you're wondering what are these things Harold's spouting off, that's how all it is. It's just our own nicknames for geographical things. So in our mind, it takes us to a certain place. So just take yourself to a place.
It's a shorthand for how to communicate with our elk buddies. Because when we bring other guys up, we're like, okay, this is Elk Ridge. Remember this.
and a lot of it is related to the experiences that you have. And so you'll see like a particular ridge, Elk Ridge. Why is it Elk Ridge, Harold?
Oh, my gosh. We just saw elk on it all the time.
We always see elk on it.
Yeah.
And how many shots? That's where I've taken the shots that I've taken in that area have been relative
so close.
to Elk Ridge,
so
either
close
on
to Elk Ridge
or what we call the Ripper, which is right behind it.
And I had an arrow knocked on Elk Ridge, coming up Elk Ridge that one day. So, and there were just so many elk, so many elk from that
It's kind of fun to
perspective.
do, and many of you, if you have places that you like we call it the Butt Crack, Elk Ridge, the Ripper, if there's some fancy name that you have, share it with us. It'd
Morning
be kind of
Ridge, the staircase, the kitchen?
The kitchen.
The backyard.
The backyard.
We have all these names, the Candy Cane, the Cross.
We discovered a new one. We call it Pac-Man. So
that's right. Past the Candy Cane.
The trees are
so
in a
nobody
shape.
has any idea what we're talking about at all. But
just
as you name, it's so much easier to name. Say, see this piece over here? Call it this. And
we're just looking at our terrain and just kind of giving ourselves an opportunity to connect. And so you probably do the same thing in your own way. So I'm sorry to get too long-winded.
But we did. It was just a hot elk season. I kept waiting for a break in the weather. It was 80 degrees every single weekend, and I don't want to say too much, but a portion of where we hunted had burned.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And that was surprising.
Yeah.
I made a bunch of videos. They're on TikTok. You can see some of the burn, but it was. I don't know. It seemed like when you hike it, it looks like the perfect fire.
Yeah.
Like the perfect fire. Like this is how a forest stays healthy. A small portion of it burned. Most of it didn't.
Yeah, hopscotch, and the trees that needed to go went up.
Yeah, it looked like a good healthy burn. It's hard to say that.
Yeah.
But it looked like a really good healthy burn. There's still plenty of trees, there's plenty of cover, and plenty of elk.
Yeah.
So it was just really hot. I hiked out twice. I actually backpacked alone twice this year. So I went to base camp. What's it called? Base Camp Creek? Is that what we're calling it?
Well, this is a different area right there.
No, I went there.
Oh, you're talking. Oh, that's right.
I did. Yeah, I went there alone. I drove my Volkswagen.
Right. You went to Base Camp Creek. Okay.
I went to Base Camp Creek, and I hiked all the way up the left side, which is where I killed my first elk, and I camped there, and it was so hot. I heard one elk bugle all season.
Wow.
You were there with me. It was a spike up on Morning Ridge. We were hiking down like the last day.
That was right.
The only time. We did hear some other bugles, but it turned out those weren't elk.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I heard one elk bugle. Now, a lot has changed in our hunting district in Idaho because the out-of-state tags are a little bit more limited. So there was a lot fewer guys. Did it really?
Yeah, so they raised the price and they limited the tags for out-of-staters.
Oh, okay.
And that was a friend of ours from out of state we ran into, and he talked a lot about that when we ran into him last September as well.
And then they talked about killing 90% of the wolves in Idaho.
Yeah.
Which I've been having some good conversations about that.
Yeah.
Some really good conversations, mostly with myself.
Okay. Well, that's right.
I would love well, with myself as a wolf. You know, I try to look at it from two different perspectives.
Yeah.
And so I did comment. Somebody was on TikTok and they were talking about this policy of the wolves. And somebody's like, no, you probably need to keep all the wolves happy and healthy. And some people are like, get rid of all the wolves. And here we are at a 90% compromise.
Huh.
And you think, well, why would the state make that decision? What's in it for them? Well, if you can only sell a percentage of the elk tags that you actually have elk for,
Yeah.
and you kill 90% of the number one predator of elk, because they're way better than we are,
Yeah.
then you can sell more elk tags. And you can still have sustainable wolf and elk populations. That's still a thing. So what I like about it is Idaho's doing its thing. Montana's doing its thing. Wyoming's doing its thing.
Yeah.
Colorado has started its own thing. And we're going to find out what a good...
Is there a balance in all of that?
We're going to, are we going to find the right wolf/elk management plan between all the states? And we'll argue about it forever. Make no mistake.
Yeah, it's a conversation that has been there.
Growing up in Montana, as we have, I've been having this conversation since 1994, 1993. Yeah. Long time, almost 30 years. And it's so divisive.
It can be, yeah.
And I've always landed right in the middle. I've always been, of course the elk are part of the ecosystem. Too. Of course they're part of the ecosystem, and of course I want to kill them.
Yeah, when I was in college, I had the conversation randomly with some people because Yellowstone was reporting how the return of the wolf was leading to some better ecological systems to return because elk herds weren't trampling down riparian zones and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so I brought this up to a fellow student in one of my classes, and she like ripped my head off. And I was like, whoa. She didn't rip my head off, but she started off with, I really wanted to like you. That was the first thing.
Wow.
And I was
interesting.
Like, yeah. So I felt bad. I'm like, I didn't necessarily, I agreed to disagree with her, but it was what it was.
Well, Colorado has more elk than Idaho and Montana put together. That's a lot. I think it's like 360,000 elk or something on their census, and it's 160,000 per Idaho, Montana. Mm-hmm. I think Oregon maybe has 170,000. So Oregon has more elk than either Idaho or Montana.
And has twice the population of both states?
Yeah. Yeah, really. And so it'll be interesting to see. How the elk population changes over the next decade. The wolf population, because of how it ties into Utah, wolves will be in Utah. There's no question. Wolves are going to be in Arizona and New Mexico. No question. They're already in Oregon, and they're in California. They killed one in California recently.
Huh.
A wolf that ventured down.
Redding,
that ventured down from Oregon. So the wolf thing is coming. I know it's competition for all the elk hunters, and I'm all for. I buy my elk. I buy my wolf tag every year.
Yeah, it's part of the package I buy.
My part of the conversation that I haven't posted it on TikTok yet, is that wolves have lived here and chased elk for tens of thousands of years, and my ancestors have hunted wolves here for tens of thousands of years. Just to wear their skin as decoration. For tens of thousands of years, that's been happening.
That makes me think.
It has been. I mean, it's not the nicest way to say it,
No.
but it's not untrue. Anyways, we'll get sidetracked on wolves all the time.
It's a podcast. Are there? We have a format, but are there definite rules? I mean, there's a protocol, of course, but.
So we need to finish up wrapping up how
2021, yeah.
2021. How did 2021 go?
I did not harvest.
Neither did I.
It's the first year since hunting this particular area we're talking about that I did not have a legitimate opportunity to knock an arrow and draw back.
We got close.
I didn't even get close enough. We got within about 70 yards of some bulls over in that burn zone.
Yeah.
And that was the only time that I felt like I was getting anywhere close to having a legit chance to actually shoot an animal, which is, I've been hunting in that area since 2013. And every single year I've been within 30 to 50 yards of an animal, and I've had legit opportunities to shoot. You've been there for a couple of them where I've let loose. So I was a little disappointed, but I know that for the area we're in, Idaho has made some changes. The tags are more limited. For out-of-staters, they're a little bit higher priced, but hopefully that helps the area recover a little bit with the number of animals. And in the next few years, it'll cycle back into having healthier herds.
We had that conversation several times over elk season. When you drive out of the mountains and you're unsuccessful and there's not very much game, you decompress and you debrief each other and
out-of-state hunters, you're not to blame here.
No.
Okay, so that was not. No. It's just that it's part of Idaho's elk management strategy, and they do it in different areas. So populations get lower and they make changes, and so it's really not about. It's not pointing fingers. Just saying it's just part of what I understand is Idaho's elk management strategy.
And what I understand about bureaucracy is that there's always going to be lag time. So there's going to be some really bad years because they're busy putting the paperwork together so they can implement policy, and there's going to be some really good years when they're like, hey, there's too many elk here. Maybe we missed that.
Yeah.
Or that was your first few years in there.
Yeah.
And
I didn't see this year coming based on the previous years. It just every year has been so good to me up there. But I have seen number of animals drop in the last 4 to 5. We've talked about that.
Yes. Yeah. Just a real steady decline.
Yeah. And I've run into as
anecdotally.
Many,
anecdotally.
I think I've run into, and again, not pointing fingers. I'm just saying it's an observation in the field I've made, running into more out-of-state hunters than in-state hunters when I'm out in the field. I'm not saying that there aren't in-state hunters up there. It just seems kind of a curious thing for me to realize. I've run into more out-of-state hunters than in-state hunters.
Oh, definitely. Was that this year?
Just in the last 8 years
but
of being
this
up
year,
there. This year,
we had a conversation with some out-of-staters, but there was a big group from in-state, right?
A family from in-state, but some of them had moved out of state. So there's some technicalities there. I wouldn't get too caught up on that, but that it's just an observation. I'm not, it's possible that the probability of me running into homestaters is I'm just in the wrong area for that, and there's a lot more people in Idaho hunting Idaho than out of Idaho. But anyway, I hope that made sense.
Kinda. Anecdotally, when you talk to people, where are you from? And I'm happy that they're from out of state.
I have no issue with that.
That's a ton of money for Idaho. Thank you. I mean, thank you for your contribution.
Yes.
Thousands of dollars, you guys, thousands to just come here and hunt. And I pay $150.
Yeah.
And gas.
Yeah.
Man, and so we're weekend warriors.
Yeah, we're limited on how much time we get to have up there, and hopefully in the future that changes, but
right. We're limited in September, but we're as equally limited every other month of the year.
Pretty much.
So other people who hunt out of state are definitely limited to that one time a year when they can get in and learn an area, become acclimated and familiar and actually hunt it.
Yeah.
So, and there's better hunters than us. I can only assume.
I am not going to back away from that statement.
Archery elk has only a 10% success rate. I know every guy you talk to gets his bull every year. I know. Just like me. Seb last year.
I know where to find him.
But it's a discouraging sport. That's what makes it the greatest outdoor sport in North America, is how difficult it is to be successful at it. And, is that a wrap up of the 2021? I didn't fire a shot. I got close to some elk. I heard one elk bugle. I hiked a lot.
We had some great scouting in June, had some great phone scoping, and we had some great trail cam footage from June through September. And through September, you left cameras up there.
Yeah.
And so lots of great elk up there. To just wrap it up, I point the finger mostly at myself for the lack of harvesting, but I still don't feel it was unsuccessful. We found elk. We were able to pursue elk. That is more than what I could say from earlier on with my hunting experiences.
So what's the big takeaway? Do you have a top 2 or 3 lessons you learned from this year?
Dress appropriately.
Okay, same lesson I learned. Good. Dress appropriately, because I dressed for elk season when I was on Mount Bora. I dressed for Mount Bora when I was in elk season, and those things flip flopping really messed me up.
I like the base camp and day hike thing now. I think I'm committed to that for the near future. Before we would backpack in and bring tents and stuff. But
we talked about backpacking in first.
Well, that's
okay.
There's I think it's about the context and the scenario, because there's certain places you got to backpack into a certain point,
right?
Versus where we like to hunt, where I like to hunt the last 8 years.
Yeah,
the base camp day hike, and so I need a better day pack, and I just haven't found one that is really.
I got one. It's in my Amazon shopping cart. I'll show it to you.
Okay.
It's got the shelf and everything. It's ready to go. I could carry you. I could. Well, maybe.
Well,
you're on a diet, right? I'm losing weight.
You got me there.
I don't know. I'm pretty strong. I'm back in the gym. I worked out all November, and I dieted all November. And for December, I at least went to the gym. So I got that going for me, and now I'm back in the gym, and I'm on the diet. So that's the 2021 season.
2021.
What did I learn? Top 3 lessons? Gosh, I don't know. I did backpack alone twice. It was so hot. It was just so hot, and I did get close to elk. I bumped them several times, but you had to bump. It was so hot; they just stood still all day, and you almost had to bump them to even find them.
Yeah.
And I'm just not as quiet and not as smell proof.
Yeah. So working on scent, understanding that aspect of hunting. I've explored it, but I've just been pulling on threads, nothing uber serious. It's like, oh, hey, a spray bottle of scent cover-up. That's what I need. But am I doing it right?
I don't know.
So there's a lot I have to learn.
I stink. There's only so much scent that can cover up my sweaty underwear.
At the same time,
honestly,
I've not used any scent at all and had my closest encounter.
Yes.
So it's like, I don't know.
Yeah. So am I just wasting money?
Yeah.
I don't know. If I have extra money, I'll just buy some scent spray and waste it just in case. Yeah. Just in case I'm wrong. So let's see. That was that, huh? I'm probably talking to the microphone. I was going to look. So your picture book is next.
Yeah, picture book.
Tell me about your picture book.
I periodically just go through stores and I'll see a magazine hanging out on the racks, and it has a beautiful picture of an elk on it. I'm just like, you know what? I want to read that. So I've purchased them at various times randomly throughout the last several years, and I picked this one up just before Christmas from Walmart, actually. Just was waiting for the wife in the restroom, and I was looking at the books out in the back, and so I picked it up. And there's a lot to learn from this stuff. Now, this magazine is called the North American Elk Magazine. No, I don't want to pick on it too bad, but we are sort of bow hunting oriented in this podcast. And so when I read through this, that's my filter. And so there was one story that I was thinking, oh my gosh, when it comes to harvesting and success, one of the stories in here caught my attention. It says 3 for 3. And what does it say here? Somewhere it indicated that this person who's hunting for the first time goes out for his first 3 years and harvests his first 3 years. That speaks something to a guy like myself who's hunted off and on from 2005, my origin story, which you'll hear later in this podcast series, my origin story from 2005 till now, and I became more consistent starting in 2013. I've hunted every year since 2013, but it was off and on prior to that. I've never harvested. So when you see a headline that says, hey, here's a guy who's never hunted before, and his first 3 years, he pulls down elk after elk.
That's frustrating to hear.
It can be, but then until you read it.
Oh, really? Okay.
He's using a rifle.
Yeah.
So that changes the game. It's a whole different ballgame when you're using a firearm. And so nothing to take away from him. It
is a big difference. And I make a big deal about how big of a difference that is on my TikTok channel. Elk Season on TikTok, by the way.
Yeah. And I've run into guys that are like, we go get our elk on this private land, and we use rifles. And I go, hey, does your buddy allow bow hunters? No stick tossers.
Yeah.
So it's out there. There's a difference, but there's something about just getting in so close to them with a bow.
And if you look at the front, if you look at almost any elk logo, right? It's about the bull elk. It's about the antlers. It's about the majesty, the mystique, but not Elk Season. Elk Season's logo is about love of the sport.
Yeah.
That's what it's about. It's not an example of how good I am at killing elk. It's an example of what Archery Elk has done to me.
Right.
Like Cupid's arrow. And that is what it has done to me.
And that kind of segues to my next point about this particular issue of this magazine. As I read through the articles, and I'm reading it for the articles.
Of course. I don't mind the pictures though.
There is a world that exists beyond my world, and I have to appreciate that's just what it is. It's not where I've ever been in life, and there are people with lots of resources and lots of expendable incomes and a lot of opportunity to get gear that I'll just never have the pocketbook for. I'm okay with that, but it also made me feel like as much as this magazine could speak to me, it's not speaking to me.
Right.
Because as you go through, it's like, oh, yeah, well, that's great. I don't have, money for a $6,000 scope or a $800 pair of binoculars or, $300 pair of pants. I buy stuff from Walmart. I bought the magazine from Walmart.
Yeah.
But it's not catering to the people who shop at Walmart.
Right.
And so not to out myself as you see me sitting here if you're watching the YouTube. I'm not small, but I don't know. I just felt a disconnect as much as I wanted to feel connected with these articles. I want to try some of this gear, and maybe I will. Not everything's priced out of range, but it wasn't speaking to people like us. I felt
the weekend warriors.
Yeah. Because in one of these bits, the guy's like, "Yeah, I spent $8,000." Oh, hold on.
Really?
Hold on.
It's in there. 8,000.
Hold on. It's a letter from an outfitter. I keep getting away from the microphone. My apologies. I'm just excited. Okay. Letter from your guide, an outfitter. And he says in here,
first of all, can I say something about guided hunts? Minus points.
Yes,
minus points. That's all. A guided hunt, and I'm friends with guides on TikTok, but a guided hunt is just purchasing.
Yeah. So here's my point.
Okay.
Right? Because right here in the opening thing, and I with all due respect to this gentleman and his outfitter business, it is shocking to me, and I quote, "It is shocking to me how people will shell thousands of dollars for a dream hunt."
Yeah, shocking.
I don't understand that.
Yes.
And that's what I talk about. It's two different worlds, and it's not. Look, I get it. You're from some other place. You have a lot of resources. Maybe it's inner city stuff, and I've heard about that stuff all the time. But it just feels less authentic, just because it's not where I'm at.
And that's why I'll never go on safari. Really?
Yeah.
I
it's
know
hard
guys
enough to go to the zoo, right?
I know guys who I got a trip planned to Africa. We're going to go and do this. I just don't have any interest at all. That's not my backyard. I don't know how to master the wilderness of Africa. That's what I'm out to do during Archery Elk.
Yeah.
To master the wilderness. And I do like to backpack in. I know.
Yeah.
I know I'm hardcore.
There's
like
nothing
that.
wrong with backpacking in. I've just found for myself that there's certain contexts where I like it.
Agreed.
I don't.
Yeah, I know. I try to push it for everything I do is backpacking.
And he's learned some hard lessons with that.
All right, take 20% off that attitude, my brother tells me.
And speaking of, it's 2022. You got to take 22% off of that.
Ooh, sold.
Sorry.
Okay.
But hypothermia almost got me one year because of backpacking. But that was my own darn fault, and I get it. But we'll come to that story probably down the road.
Yeah, we got some stories, man. We got some stories.
Like everybody.
So that is that it for your magazine?
Yeah, that's this particular one, and I'll find. There's other great. I mean, this is a good magazine.
It is, and
but it didn't speak to my demographic.
Gotcha, and I find that a lot. And when I look at elk content, I see, oh, this is a great elk hunt. Look at how big this is, and you look at the preview. You read a little bit of the preview. You start watching it, and you realize they're hunting with rifles. And I'm done. I'm done. I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm not watching that. And as much as people used to give me a hard time for using a rifle, for not using a rifle.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, Slim.
Yeah. Sure.
Because, he could kill stuff. He never killed an elk, though.
No.
So we have this these ideas. Where am I going? Oh, your magazine. Sorry, it's covered up. There we go. That helps. Yeah, it's all your fault.
Usually is.
But
I had one job.
We have these publications, and they're trying to reach a certain demographic, and that's what Elk Season is trying to do. Is we're trying to reach that demographic of. I talked to a guy very recently from over in Filer. He actually they didn't backpack in, but they took mule trains in. Right? He went hunting with a very prominent chef in the area. And he says one year that chef snuck in lobster. You go deep into the backcountry and you have lobster. Okay? That man has never killed an elk with his bow.
Wow.
That's the demographic. He does it because he loves it. Yeah. Maybe he loves lobster. I don't know, but they always had beer on those wagon trains there, those mule trains.
A little flask in the pack.
Once in a while, I'll bring some beer all the way up Elk Ridge, and I'm so sick I can't even drink it. I'll just hike back down with it. I never have a beer. I never drink beer up there. Wait.
Never mind. That could go in so many directions away from hunting.
Yeah, well, so you talk to all these guys, and it's great to see people that are successful and really good elk hunters.
Yeah.
And that's the media that I want to talk about today, because I've been a fan of Elk 101 ever since just last year. I started watching the Elk 101 series, and these guys have a class they teach. It's only $100. I told you I need to take it. I'll just spend the $100, take the class, see what they have to teach me. Yeah. I'm going to learn something.
It's just more data points we talked about earlier. All the data points that you accumulate over time that help you become an informed hunter.
And they are successful hunters. They are harvesting hunters.
Yeah.
They harvest. And actually last season they actually got into two bulls that were fighting. And he shot while they were locked, he shot one.
Wow.
Yeah. You want to know how fast an elk goes down then? Fast.
I bet.
Fast when they're that tired and working that hard.
No joke.
And he got in on them. Oh, that's a great episode. Anyways, so what I want to talk about is the media for this year. And that is Elk 101. And it's Corey Jacobson and Donnie. I forget his last name. What's your last name again? So they have, and they go out with other people, and they had 7 or 8 episodes last year. And they come out every week for a couple of months, maybe 3 months, and they kill a lot of elk. They're out there in different states, and they got extra tags, and this guy in this group has a tag, this guy in this group has a tag. And Corey Jacobson's this Hall of Fame elk bugler guy. He just has spent enough time talking to elk that he understands what they're saying. And I haven't taken his class, so I don't really know.
There's another guy that claimed to understand what elk are saying, too.
I know, and I like his explanation.
And we've had success with his techniques.
Yes, and so I don't know if it's different with Corey Jacobson. That's why I said I need to take
comparison,
that. Yeah, just to take that class. And Chris Rowe hasn't been out that much lately. He hasn't done anything. He's like, here's all the information I have about elk, and I'm moving on. But it's out there, and it's really good.
Pretty solid stuff. I got his app.
Yeah, me too. And it's though I never use it.
Me either.
But I love having it.
I usually look at it during the off season.
No, that's not true actually. Actually this season I would listen because I heard you hear weird things.
Yeah.
And so I go through the app and I'm like, is that what I heard? Is that what I heard? Because even the app when you're off grid, you've downloaded a few examples of elk sounds, and that's been very helpful. But this year, Elk 101, here's what's going on with Elk 101 this year. They have 5 different teams, and I don't know if they've got 10 different hunts, 5 different, and I think Randy Newberg's in it. I love Randy Newberg.
I'm a big fan of Randy Newberg. Yeah. Many years watching him.
And so they've got a bunch of different, big YouTube or big hunting stars in the Elk 101 series this year. Okay. And the first episode is going to drop on the 24th of January. So if you want to stay, and it's free to watch on YouTube.
Marking calendar.
If you want to stay in touch, and that's what Elk Season podcast about, is staying in touch with Elk Season. then man, these guys really put out some good media. It's really fun to watch, and if you want to get caught up on all the stuff that they did from last year, it's all on YouTube. It's phenomenal stuff. Even Donnie's dad jokes aren't bad. I've told worse.
Yeah,
That's all I can say. I've told worse jokes.
I'm probably guilty of that to
So
a large extent.
All right, we're at 45 solid minutes right now.
Yeah.
And I don't want to take too long because I want to talk about elk all year.
Right.
I don't know if 1 hour a week is going to do it all. Let's see. So I want to talk about, so that was just the Elk 101 trailer. That's the media I was going to talk about. I want to talk about my genesis into archery elk season and my biggest 3 moments and some of the gear I like and the first place I was when I heard an Elk Bugle, which
right. I think there are some stories here that I shared with you.
There probably are. Let's see.
They'll be different from mine.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
But there's a couple on the list
Definitely.
I saw.
Definitely. So my genesis to archery elk season was just being born and raised in Montana. So our dad was a librarian for 44 years. A librarian with cerebral palsy and 7 daughters.
And
2
we're
sons.
just 2 of them. Oh, wait. We're the 2 sons.
Right, we're the 2 sons out of 9 kids. So he wasn't outdoorsy.
No,
he was a librarian, the definition of indoorsy. And I didn't even think of him to say, "Hey, Dad, can you give me a book on hunting elk?"
Yeah, never once. I
never thought of it. I should have.
Yeah, but for whatever reason, he just wasn't an outdoorsy person, so just wasn't something you thought to do.
But growing up in Helena and seeing the mountains out every window of our house just invites adventure.
It does.
And I would walk from our house into those mountains.
You dragged me along growing up.
Ever since you were big enough to drag along.
I don't know if it's a real memory or a false memory, but I have a memory of being on my big wheel with you and your friend Bobby, and you were on
Sounds
your bikes,
right.
and we went somewhere.
Sounds
and
right.
I was really young, but I was on a big wheel.
Yeah, sounds right.
Following
Adventures
you
on a big wheel.
Yeah.
That's Gen X. I know you're not Gen X, are you?
I think I'm.
You might be late
No,
Gen X.
My birth year is
Borderline.
at the cutoff point between 2, so it's like X and millennial.
Okay.
So I'm at the beginning of millennial, at the end of X.
So yeah, but
thing.
you were raised by a Gen Xer,
Yeah.
which
Yeah,
is
pretty much.
me. I don't want to say raised, because I can't take credit for anything, or
Certainly
blame.
had some influence.
Maybe a little
though.
blame.
A lot of blame. I'm sorry. Did I say that out loud?
So just having that alone, I craved adventure and couldn't get it.
Yeah.
Having a dad that's librarian and I don't want to say handicap. He hated that word, but he was physically incapable of like running,
Yeah.
or throwing, or catching, or wrestling. So there just wasn't that.
Even riding a bike was a limitation. Sometimes.
Very, very big limitation. So I just didn't get that, and I just was hungry for it, staring out the mountains all the time. And so you dream, you do what
Yeah.
you can, you dream, you watch Robin Hood, you watch Hunger Games, you dream about
Yeah.
being the archer, and so somebody gave me a bow. It was our oldest sister's ex-husband, TJ.
Okay. Yeah.
TJ, I probably bought a bow at a garage sale for $5, hung it up in his trailer for I don't know how many years, and then one day you go, well, it's so-and-so's birthday. What do you think they'd like? Just take that off the wall. I'm not going to do anything with it. Really, that's how I got my first bow.
That's awesome.
And then it was never strung. I just hung it up in my room. I didn't do anything with it. And then here comes Slim. Hey, what you got there? I'm telling you, all that guy needs to be a cowboy is a rope.
Yeah.
Give him a rope. He's like, oh, I'm a cowboy now.
Yeah.
And he sees that bow and he says, it wouldn't be that much to string it. You just take it down, they'll string it for you. Arrows are only $1, $2. Broadheads are only $1. Your bow stamp is only $6. This is back in the late 80s, early 90s in
yeah.
Montana. It was the last year you could get your bow stamp without having to take hunter safety. That was a
In
big
Montana, yeah.
that was a big selling point for Slim.
I don't have to go to a class.
When we were seniors in high school, he's like, hey, dude, let's sign up for all remedial classes so we can just skate through the senior year. And he did. And he did quite well.
He'd have
at
been
it.
proud of me for my senior year of college. I'll be honest, because you look at my transcript my last semester, and it's like, that's what I did.
So he talks me into bow hunting. And now you go all summer long waiting for hunting season, and all of a sudden, hunting. Do you want to stand that back up?
I totally kicked it on myself.
Yeah, you'll be okay.
Oh gosh, no, it won't stay up.
I think you have to lift it up and then push the handle back down before you sit down on it.
Nope.
Oh, all right. Well,
I'll just look. The microphone adjusts.
Okay. So, where was I?
Sorry.
My genesis to elk season. So now we have a bow and we have some arrows and we have a vehicle to hunt in. It is a 1982 Volkswagen Rabbit diesel that is bright yellow.
Yeah. I've been in the backseat of that thing with the two
many
of you
miles.
many times.
Yeah. And so we just knew when the opening day was, which was towards the end of August, early September. Yep. And we just started going. And the very first day, there's just deer everywhere.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
Lots of
it was
whitetail.
crazy. No, there was all muleys.
Was it all muleys?
Yes.
Oh, I guess this is your memory, not mine.
This is way up by Park Lake. So Park Lake's high in the mountains outside of Helena.
I thought Park Lake had a lot of whitetails.
There's an occasional whitetail around there.
Huh.
But the Lincoln had all the whitetails down in the river country.
Okay.
So I remember being as muleys. There might have been some whitetails.
My memory's way too young there. So, I mean, I'm 8, 9, 10 years old. So
okay. Well,
I'll back out.
It's been a few years for me. But it was so engaging. It was so exciting to be that close to an animal and think you could kill it. It was just so amazing. And we couldn't hit everything with that recurve. That recurve was hard. We took a good 20, 30 practice shots each. In total before hunting.
Yeah. No,
in total. And we failed and we failed and we failed and we failed and we flung arrows and we wasted money, we wasted gas and we called in sick to our jobs and we did whatever we could to go hunting more. And it sucked so bad when he went through that puddle and ruined the car.
Yeah, I was.
That was it.
I'm trying to remember. Because Mom was with us.
I remember.
And he pulls up, and it had rained like excessively for the previous 4 days or whatever. So there's puddles everywhere out on these roads. And he pulls up and he goes, I think we can make it. He just floors it. And we bottom out somewhere in this puddle on a rock of some kind, and the engine immediately dies. And we're in the water. He starts it back up, and he gets us out of the water. We turn around, and it eventually just died. And then him and I had to hitchhike back into town. Mom stayed with the vehicle, and some guy in a truck, a really nice Ford, if I remember. And it was the first time I remember seeing wood inlay on the armrest.
Oh, wow.
It was a nice truck, and he drove us all the way to Fee Street.
Oh, wow.
And we got out at Fee Street and got Beth, and she got in the Ford LTD, and we drove up there.
Gosh. Even an old junker isn't what it used to be, is it?
Yeah. Anyway.
So this is we go in and we hunt this area, and we're so used to seeing so much game, and we're like fresh out of high school. We work 4 hours a day at Wendy's from like 6 to 10 o'clock at night. It was just so dumb. And because we're like, what can we do that we can hunt the most? And we just did whatever we could to maximize our hunting.
Priorities.
Yeah. Oh, at that age. So we're out on a Wednesday, and it's hot. It had been raining for days. This is before the Volkswagen broke. It had been raining for days. Finally, the sun is out. It's hot and it's humid, and we went to a place way up on the other side of where we had been, way up on the other side of Park Lake, and a place very close to McDonald Pass, very much in grizzly country, but it's so quiet. We haven't seen anything all day, and we're driving. And Dennis or Slim, he was a big guy. He's 6 foot tall, 350 pounds. He would heat up.
Yeah.
He would heat up kind of a lot, and so he would wear shorts underneath his pants so he could just take his pants off and cool off. And so we're driving this road, but he doesn't want to stop and takes his pants off, so he just pushes his pants down to his ankles, and he's sitting in the car with his pants down to his ankles. We have rented about every video in town, every VHS tape in town that we can find about elk hunting. We have one cow elk call. It was designed by that guy in Gardner. It had the rubber band and the pinchy flap, and you had to, make sounds with that. And we were in this Volkswagen driving up some road, And it's been quiet, haven't seen a single thing all day. And when I look out to my left outside the open driver's side window and run alongside the car, 15, 20 feet away is a big bull elk. Wow. A big bull elk. And Slim never saw it.
Wow.
But I stomp on the brakes because I've never seen an elk that close before.
Wow.
He gets out. He doesn't even bother pulling up his pants. I know this is the funniest part because he gets the bow. He gets the bow out of the back of the car, and he's taking all these little tiny steps around the front of the car. You know, in the car, I know the car is like, it's turned off. The emergency brake isn't on. The doors are open. The bell on the car is bong, 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 bong. And he's worked his way to the side. He's holding, because it's his turn to shoot. That's why I was driving. We only have one bow. And he's holding the knocked arrow, and his pants are around his ankles, and he's standing on the side of the road. And we're like, he never saw it. He never saw the elk. And I said, maybe we should get the cow talk. So I go back to the car. I get the cow talk. I come back, and I chirp. And I don't know what I'm doing, but down on the creek bottom, down from the road, off to the right, we hear an answer.
Wow.
It's not a chirp. It's a bark, I guess. It's something a little different, but definitely I've never heard that before in the woods. So, okay, well, why don't you pull your pants up now, and we'll we'll do some more cow talks and see if he answers us, see if he stays closer, moves, or whatever. So we wait 4 or 5 minutes, we do another one, and now we hear him answer down off to the left. And so we're like, okay, well, maybe that's what's going on. So we wait a few more minutes, and we chirp again, and then again down off to the left. So we're like, okay, let's put a move on him. You know, we took the keys out of the ignition, just left the car where it was on the road, and started hiking down. Mm-hmm. And every 10, 15 steps, we'd make a chirp. This thing would answer back from the same spot. And we're getting closer and closer and closer to this. And Slim had worked off a little bit because he had gone off to my right a little bit because he's thinking he can see around all of the willows down on the bottom, and we're so close. And this thing is making noise right behind this big willow, and we get closer and closer and closer, and then this guy steps out.
I've heard the story a long time ago, and it finally registered. I haven't heard it in such a long time, and
So that was my first time ever getting called in by another hunter.
Wow.
And it hasn't happened too often since then because you get a little wary. You really want to put eyes on it. But that was the first time getting called in by another hunter, and he was shaking like a wet dog. Wow. He was so riled up and nervous because he had chased that bull up to the road.
Oh, wow.
He had called in sick to his job.
Oh, no.
Because he had been out hunting on the weekend going, oh, man, you know how it is.
Yeah.
You know, you have a good experience. Like, I got to get back there. Get back there.
Yep.
This guy called in sick to his job. That's why he's out there on a Wednesday. We didn't see his truck until about 20, 30 minutes later.
Oh, wow.
Because it was way up on the road. Anyway, so after that, it was all over, man. They're animals. Those animals are so big, and it's so exciting. And to feel the emotion from this other hunter it was a big deal.
It's called the spillover effect.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Oh, well, whatever it is. He had a lot of spillover because that's a powerful emotional moment. And that is my genesis to elk season. That happened in the early 90s. So we are at 30 solid years so far. And climbing, hopefully another 30.
You are.
Right.
In terms of hunting, right? With a
from
bow.
my genesis. Yeah, from my genesis of elk season. From when I thought, oh my God, could I kill one of those things with a stick? You see how big that was? Guys do it. They do it, and they kill them with a bow. That's incredible.
I guess I do have to be included in that. You said we, and
and Dennis.
But it was your story, but I guess I'm there, so somewhere when we get to my genesis, it does begin in many ways with you.
Yeah.
But when I actually got into bow hunting, it started a little bit different. But that's not for today. But
that's okay. Well, yeah, we'll talk next week. I know we gotta wrap things up. 59 minutes. Look at that. We gotta wrap things up. Let me see what else I have here. I didn't even do my 3 biggest moments.
Yeah.
That's what you're looking at too. Same thing.
Yeah.
The 3 biggest moments. Number 1, the takeaway. The takeaway. Maybe we can tell this next time. We'll just save it. It's been an hour.
Yeah.
We're good. I think we've got a lot of content. where I was when I heard my first Elk Bugle, it was such a special moment for me. And it was long after this incident with Slim.
Yeah.
And I think I was married at the time or engaged. And I was in my future mother-in-law's car. Remember that little Citation?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm just like, I'm just going to put some gas in and just going to go hit some dirt roads. And went out on this dirt road all alone. I don't know where I'm going. I don't know what I'm doing. I just know I want to do it. It's that bad. And I get out there and I'm just outside the car, getting my boots on, doing what I got to do to get ready to go for a little hike. I don't even know where I'm hiking. And an elk bugles. And it went all the way through me. Mm-hmm. And then I looked up on the hill. I could see a few elk and they were on their way out. But I'm like, that's my first elk bugle. That's it. That was it. I was, I don't know, 19, 20 years old.
Wow.
So it was just a very, I don't know if I can ask that to everybody. But
it's a transformational moment.
Yeah.
It's a moment that solidifies in your mind that you knew that this is something that you're going to pursue as a hobby, as an aspect of your life.
Right.
And it just kind of underscores that genesis that you had been on. And it says, yeah, I'm headed the right direction.
Right.
That's what I felt like when you were describing that. You said it went right through me. And that's usually like those feelings you get when you know you're doing something you know you should be doing.
Right. Right. And you're right. Right. I feel like I've done something right. And I don't know what it is yet.
But it's meaningful.
Oh, so
it's
meaningful.
Deep.
Yeah.
And you'll never forget it.
Yeah. And then we had some other moments. We'll talk about them next week. We did cover a lot of information this week. It's our first.
For better or for worse, right?
It's our first Elk Season podcast. So bear with us. We'll be back next week. We got tons of stories, and we want to hear your stories.
Absolutely.
Please share it. We can't go out there and hunt with you guys as much as we'd like to, but we'd love to hear your stories. If you're anywhere near the Twin Falls area, or you can get near.
And here's an important underscore. We can have these stories. We typically do. We run into you in the field. We share and trade stories, but we're saying we don't have to wait for that to do it. So please reach out to us.
Yeah.
Share with us.
Rocky Mountain Elk Season at gmail.com. Just email me. Rocky Mountain Elk Season at gmail.com. Thanks so much.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks for coming out, David. I appreciate it.
Appreciate being here.
And you're good for next week?
Oh, yeah.
10 o'clock?
Oh, yeah.
All right.
It's on my calendar, man.
Okay, sweet. We'll see you then.
All right.
Goodbye.
Cheers.